Hey there guys, so I'm 21 and I'm turning 22 next month. And I'm just generally scared. I feel like this is the weirdest age for two reasons. Number one, everyone tells you that this is the best time of your life. Like, oh, I wish I was 21 again. Oh, to be 21 and free and have no responsibility and to be at university and living my life. And yet number two, because you're hyper aware that literally every single decision you make right now, whether it's educationally, career-wise, friendship-wise, relationship-wise, like everything matters. Like what you study, what you're choosing to do with your time matters, because all of this is carving your career for the rest of your 20s and 30s and all of it. And then throw in the fact that there was a whole pandemic and, you know, they kind of stole away some of the prime years of our life and we were kind of robbed of the ability to socialise for so long. And so it's just kind of unsurprising that this is the age of an existential crisis. And I haven't even graduated yet, still awaiting that existential crisis. Last year, I decided to read a book called The Defining Decade. It's a book which is all about your 20s and it was written by an incredible clinical psychologist called Meg Jay. She spent her whole career interviewing people predominantly in their 30s and 40s about how to take charge of their life, to deal with issues in their life. And what she tended to find was that a lot of the issues people were having in their 30s and 40s stemmed from decisions made when they were in their 20s. She realised that even though everyone's life path is different, there are kind of these universal pieces of advice that she wishes everyone in their 20s would hear and take into mind when carving their 20s. So I read this book and I have some takeaways and they're affecting how I view my 20s and how I'm living my life. So yeah, no matter what age you are, I hope you can find a little tidbit of advice in this video. At the end, I'm also going to do my thoughts and critiques on the book because I think it also just puts a lot of pressure on 20-year-olds. And we have enough pressure as it is. Okay, so the book is split into work, love, and body and mind. The first section, work, I'm going to talk about some of my takeaways. Something I found really interesting was the idea of weak ties. In our lives, you can almost imagine yourself as having a network of concentric circles of people. If you're in the middle, you have your close friends surrounding you. Then after that, you have maybe friends of friends, people you see on maybe a weekly basis who still impact your life but aren't the closest people. And then as you progressively go outwards, you have people whose name you know, who maybe you sat in class with, but you don't really know them too well. And then eventually you have their friends, and like as you go on and on and on, there are people who you're slightly connected to, but you don't really have a deep connection with. And she talks about how, especially in your 20s, you're very prone to sticking with the close people that you manage to find. You're lucky enough, you found some people who have similar mindsets, values, approaches to the world, and you're likely to stay there in this kind of echo chamber of the friendships that you have. But the thing is, in terms of career development, there's so much research that people can get incredible jobs through exploiting the weak ties that they have, not just like the close friends, but that random person on LinkedIn who's like a third connection who worked at a company that one of your friends worked at. Through reaching out to a professor at your university who's never taught you, but you have that weak tie because you have that connection with the same institution. These people who are still a part of your life, but just you don't really connect to them as close friends, they're the ones with new opportunities, new ways of seeing the world. And in your 20s, she really recommends like broadening your horizon, just speaking to as many of these weak ties as possible to see what kind of opportunities there are, to see where your skill sets might align. And I think this is something I've really been taking on board in the last year and a half of university. For example, I went to a networking event in first year and sort of became friends with this guy who I really admired, had a really cool career, and I had check-in calls with him every like 6 months. And then I found out he knew a girl who did a project I was interested in. So then I had a call with her and she was connected to an author that I was interested in while I was writing my book, so I connected with the author, and then he kind of became a bit of a mentor for me while I was writing my book. But I didn't know him at first, and it was like the weakest of possible ties in order to get to him. So I think just having that mindset of I'm open to meeting new people, I'm open to exploring the opportunities that could be there. Number two in the work life is sense of identity and something she calls identity capital. This is the time of our lives where we're just, I don't know, I feel like I'm fumbling around in terms of trying to work out who I am. It's such a big priority in my life to like, I don't know, self-reflect and introspect and learn about myself. And a huge question with career is, how can you really know what kind of career or what kind of job would fulfill you if you don't really know yourself? If you don't know what makes you happy, if you don't know the kind of activities you enjoy, if you don't know the kind of people you want to be around, how will you know how to carve your career? So yeah, she just recommends building this idea of who you are and how you relate to others through putting yourself in new situations, through declaring your interests publicly. For example, writing articles about things you find interesting. Like you can go on Medium or LinkedIn and just reflect, like write articles, and all of a sudden you're starting to build up this capital, this value online and to other people of your identity. Like, who are you? What are you interested in? And you're really putting that out there so that opportunities can come your way. Also, she points out something which is so true, and that is neuroplasticity is way higher in your 20s than when you're 40. And neuroplasticity is basically how plastic your brain is, like how much your brain can change and grow and shapeshift based off of the activities you give it, the people you surround yourself with, all of that. Like right now, our brains are changing in a way which is going to impact us for the rest of our lives. So now is the time to like be bold and try new things and get out of your comfort zone and really be like shaping your brain in a good way. And then finally in the career section, she talks about being really realistic and really honest with the kind of work you want to do. Firstly, on the point of realism, there's this thing called the paradox of choice, which is, you know, when you graduate from university, you're looking at the world like, damn, there are 100 million options of jobs that I can do, and you feel so crippled by all the options that you just choose nothing. Like, that's the paradox of choice. There are so many choices that you end up doing nothing. So firstly, being realistic with the skill set you have, with where you live, with the kind of money you need, like, just create that subset of options for yourself so that already it becomes easier to choose. And then secondly, on the idea of like, finding your goals, pursuing what you're actually interested in. So much of what's going to make you happy in your 30s and 40s is pursuing something that genuinely makes you excited. If you're studying medicine and you're like, oh my god, I don't want to be a doctor, but like my family are making me do it, all my friends think I'm going to be a doctor. Like, now is as good a time as any to be like, you know what, I'm really grateful that I studied that, but I'm now going to pivot and pursue what excites me and like get my foot in the door of a new career. And again, this has been a huge theme for me the last year because so many of my friends have applied for crazy internships in amazing corporate jobs in San Francisco or New York, and one of my best friends is working for Uber next summer, and one of my friends is going into finance and stuff, which, I don't know, I was just trained on paper to be like, that's cool. But I realised I just don't think it's for me. I don't think sitting in the corporate office of a huge corporation is gonna make me feel fulfilled. And I want to work hard, I want to do cool things, but not in that realm. So yeah, just like being honest with myself and being realistic and saying, cool, then what are my other options? Okay, now way more interesting, we're talking about love. The second part of the book is love. Meg J says that you should be just as intentional with love as you are with work. And amen, I love that mindset. Love and relationships impact our life so much. You can't pick your existing family, but you can pick your new family. Like, you can choose a partner, you can choose a future life through who you end up loving. Like, you can build a new family unit. And this section really spoke to me because when I was a teenager, I was so obsessed with working hard and hustling and getting the best grades and like career development and like all this stuff. I was so driven, and I'm so grateful I was because, you know, it shapes where I am right now, but I really didn't value relationships nearly as much. It was like I thought all my happiness would be because of these grades. And I just realised for my 20s that I need to learn how to love. I need to learn how to have a good, healthy relationship. I need to learn like what past traumas in my life might affect me in close relationships and learn how to mitigate that and like develop my personality in a way where I can cultivate these good, stable relationships. Similar with friendships, like understanding truly who I want in my life, like, you know, who I can just get on with versus who is going to be there for me when times get hard, like what kind of personality traits I need the people around me to have for me to be a happy person. And she also talks a lot about the idea of dating down and how your perceived sexual value is based off of your past experiences, your past relationships, times you've been hurt, times you don't value yourself. And this is why you might settle for someone who you just know, gut feeling deep down, is not really right for you. Like, yes, they might be attractive, yes, they're convenient, they're in your life, like, you went to the same uni, I don't know, yes, maybe you live with them, I don't know, like, all these things that just make them embedded in your life for some reason, and you convince yourself that this is the love you deserve. But no, you deserve the best love, you know? Like, you really have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I deserve the best, I deserve more. And she talks about how your 20s are this time to learn to love and respect yourself first so that you can attract the partner that you also deserve who respects you in the same way. Also, something I found interesting from the book was this point about moving in with people. We have this common misconception that moving in with a romantic partner is a good test for marriage. Like, okay, cool, if I can live with them, we're gonna survive for life. And I think I definitely held that belief too. Like, yes, I should live with someone to like test out a relationship. But through all her work with different people, she realised that people who just move in together for like practical reasons like saving money or convenience or just like, I don't know, ease, are the relationships that are more likely to slip into marriage, to just do it because it's convenient because the partner's there, and to end in divorce. Like, if you move in too early with someone, you're more likely to break up with them later. And she talks about how moving in with someone should be a really big decision that is mutually beneficial. Like, you have decided that it's going to be good for both of you as individuals and for the relationship to live together, and it should be like a big discussion and all of that stuff rather than just let's save money, let's move in together. Yeah, so that's just like food for thought. She also went on to make some other points about like body physiology and like having kids and timelines and all this other stuff, but I think the main message I take away from the book is be intentional in your 20s. Be intentional with everything. Be intentional with love. Be intentional with carving out relationships and learning from them and reflecting about yourself. Be intentional with putting yourself out there for new careers, with reaching out to friends of friends, like putting yourself out there and just seeing what happens. Be intentional with experimentation and travel, and live your 20s in such a way that you're not going to regret the things on your mind which you wish you'd tried, and you just went for it. You just did it, you know? I really quickly want to talk about some critiques of the book too. I think something she didn't touch on enough is that you can't always have the perfect plan. Like, you can be intentional, you can reach out to friends of friends, you can exploit these weak ties, you can go for the career you think you want, all of it, and life can still happen. You know, like illness and unforeseen circumstances which utterly change the shape of your life. And I think there's just so much out of your control, which you can't foresee. Secondly, the book is very focused on traditional views of living a life, like specifically Western views. So for example, like an assumption that you're going to marry someone, an assumption that you'll probably have kids, this kind of like capitalistic obsession with career growth and getting as much money as possible. But like, what if you don't want to get married? What if you don't want to have kids? What if your dream really is nothing to do with making the most money that you can, and it really is about serving others or creating the most meaningful art? Like, I know her advice is tailored to a mainstream audience based off of her experiences with people, but yeah, I think people do have different values, and that's amazing. Thirdly, I think the book is so depressingly written if you're 30 or 40 or older than 20, because it's sort of said in a way where like, if you wasted your 20s, like, good luck. Like, you've got no hope now. And obviously that's so not true, and people are so on their own timelines, and you can do whatever you want at any age, and I really do believe that. So yeah, it's like taking what you want from the book, but not taking the advice as deterministic of your future. Number 4, she definitely phrases the book in a way where you don't prioritize enjoying your life and like hedonism and, I don't know, just living for the sake of the vibes, which I know is her point, because I think people in their 20s are more inclined to do that anyway, so like she has to come from this like practical, sensible angle. But then I also think about what makes life worth living and what's going to make me look at my 20s with fondness, and it's definitely that element. Like, taking risks and just enjoying it, like going traveling, taking another gap year, that kind of thing. And finally, I kind of touched on it, but I think it's just a very Western presentation of how to do life and doesn't take into account like different religions, different ways of living, the role that family should play in your life. I don't know if she's American, but it feels American. So yeah, in conclusion, how am I living my 20s? I am gonna live my life with intention. I'm setting up the habits now that I want to have to make me a happier person in life. I am not gonna shy away from falling in love, from having my heart broken, from investing in friendships, from trying new jobs, from taking risks, trying new careers, doing things which make me feel anxious just to expand my comfort zone, like public speaking, things like that. I'm gonna spread myself widely across my network and probably not move in with a romantic partner too soon unless it's serious. I guess that those are like the takeaways. But yeah, if you are in your 20s or you're past your 20s, I'm just so intrigued to hear your thoughts on this decade of life. Age and time, they're also constructs, right? Like biologically for humans, yeah, I guess they matter. Societally, yeah, I guess they matter. But at the same time, I don't know, I just look at myself a few years ago and how much I've evolved and changed in ways which aren't just linked to my age, but more through like the experiences that I've had. And I believe that you can change your life at any time. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. The casual magic for today is the building opposite me is just like, it's sliced diagonally by this sunlight and it just looks so radiant and pretty, and I just love that the UK has sun right now. It just makes me feel grateful to be here. Okay, have a lovely rest of your day. Bye!